Hi guys, so let's discuss practice questions from the chapter Nelson Mandela Long Walk to Freedom. Chapter नहीं पढ़ा तो एक बार पहले फटाफट पढ़ लेना and then questions आंसर करना बहुत easy and intuitive भी लगने लगेगा. So let's begin. Where did the ceremonies take place? Can you name any public buildings in India that are made of sandstone? So they took place in the Union Buildings of Pretoria and was attended by dignitaries and leaders of many nations. अब इंडिया में राष्ट्रपति भवन, रेड फोर्ट आर buildings made of red sandstone. Can you say how 10th May is an autumn day in South Africa? So South Africa southern hemisphere में आता है, हम northern hemisphere में रहते हैं, तो आप बस सीजन रिवर्स कर लो, तो हमारे यहाँ स्प्रिंग होगा तो वहाँ ऑटम होगा. So that's why 10th May is an autumn day. What is at the beginning of his speech? Mandela mentions an extraordinary human disaster. What is meant by this? What is the glorious human achievement he speaks of at the end? So an extraordinary human disaster is the practice of apartheid in South Africa. During this, there was racial segregation based on colors, and the blacks suffered a lot. They were not allowed to demand freedom or any right. Mandela himself spent years on infamous Robben Island as a prisoner, where he was beaten mercilessly. He considers it as a glorious human achievement that a black person became the president of Africa, and blacks there was a point where blacks weren't even considered human beings and they were treated so harshly. What does Mandela thank the international leaders for? So he feels very privileged to welcome international leaders at the swearing-in ceremony, because not long ago, South Africans were basically considered outlaws. He thanks them for having come to witness this historical ceremony. It was basically a gesture of international recognition to a newly born free democratic nation, and it could be considered as a common victory for justice, peace, and human dignity. What ideals does Nelson Mandela set for the future of South Africa? So, he sets ideals of liberating people from bondage of poverty, deprivation, and suffering. He also set the ideal for society where there would be no discrimination based on gender or racial origins or any other sort. Now, what did the military generals do and how did their attitude change and why? So, they saluted Mandela and pledged their loyalty, which was a great significance, as during the apartheid era, they would have arrested him instead. So this change was because of the struggles and sacrifices put in by many heroes of South Africa. The struggle not only ensured the freedom of a nation struggling with apartheid, but also brought a change in the mindsets of people. He believed that love can also be taught, and humans are naturally inclined towards love rather than hate. Why were two national anthems sung? One was sung by the whites and the other by the blacks, both symbolizing equality. How does Mandela describe the systems of government in his country in the first decade and in the final decade of the 20th century? So in the first decade, the whites erected a system of racial domination against the blacks, thus creating the basis of one of the harshest and most inhumane societies in the world. And in the final decade, the previous system had been overturned and replaced by one which recognized rights and freedoms of all people, regardless of the color of the skin. What does courage mean to Mandela? काफी important question है. For Mandela, courage does not mean the absence of fear, but means victory over fear. You must conquer your fear. According to him, brave men need not be fearless. डर नहीं होना नहीं है की बात नहीं है. डर पे काबू पाना, डर के आगे जीतना. But they should be able to conquer fear. Which does Mandela think is natural, to love or to hate? So according to Mandela, love comes more naturally to the human heart than hate. What are twin obligations that Mandela mentions? So he mentions that every man has twin obligations. पहला है आपके फैमिली, पेरेंट्स, वाइफ, चिल्ड्रन की तरफ आपका जो कर्तव्य है. सेकंड इज टुवर्ड्स योर पीपल, योर कम्युनिटी, योर कंट्री. What did being free mean to Mandela as a boy? and then as a student. And how does he contrast these transitory freedoms with basic and honorable freedoms? So, bachcha ke, like any other kid, freedom to him meant to be merry and enjoy a blissful life. But once he becomes an adult, antics of childhood look transitory, but lame लगता है, बहुत लगता है कितना ये तो क्या ही था, मतलब ये क्या ही मांग रहा था मैं. Because most of the childish activities are wasteful from an adult's perspective. Once you are an adult, you have to earn a livelihood to bring the bacon home. It's only then when you get an honorable existence in the family and in the society. अब आपके ऊपर responsibilities आ जाती है. You need to earn, you need to have a settled life, you need companionship. तो ये सारी चीज़ें भी आ जाती है. Does Mandela think the oppressor is free? Why or why not? He does not think that the oppressor is free because according to him, oppressor is a victim of hatred who is behind the bars of prejudice and narrow-mindedness. He realizes that both the oppressor and the oppressed are robbed of their humanity and peace. Why did such a large number of international leaders attend the inauguration? What did it signify the triumph of? So, to be a part of the inauguration, international leaders showed a gesture of solidarity from international community to the idea of end of apartheid. It was the significance of the victory of good over evil and triumph of a tolerant society without discrimination. Tolerant society मतलब जहाँ पर सब कुछ intolerance नहीं होगा, मतलब बिना बात के आप पर अत्याचार नहीं होंगे, और इस चीज़ की एक जीत थी, ट्रायम्फ यानी जीत. What does Mandela mean when he says he is simply the sum of all those African patriots who had gone before him? So he wants to pay tribute to all those people who have sacrificed their lives for the sake of freedom. He says that he is grateful to those who have gone before him because these heroes have paved the path of cooperation and unity, and they have paved the path which led to freedom eventually. Therefore, he could not try to come to power to bring equality for his people without their support. ये उनकी मेहनत है, बस अब वो उसका फल देखने के लिए जिंदा नहीं है. Would you agree that the depths of oppression create heights of character? How does Mandela illustrate this? Can you add your own examples? So I agree. And he illustrates this by giving examples of great heroes of South Africa like Oliver Tambo, Walter Sisulu, and others who inspired to sacrifice their lives in the long freedom struggle. आप इंडिया की बात करें तो इंडिया इज ऑल्सो फुल ऑफ सच कैरेक्टर्स. जहाँ पर यहाँ पर ब्रिटिश रूल में जो ऑपरेशन हमने सहा, उसके वजह से काफ़ी बड़े एंड नेक कैरेक्टर्स बाहर आए, लाइक महात्मा गांधी, लाला लाजपत राय, जवाहरलाल नेहरू, चंद्रशेखर आज़ाद, भगत सिंह एंड बहुत सारे. तो हम अगर कंपेयर करें द क्वालिटी ऑफ पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स इन इंडिया दैट हम आज देख रहे हैं, then he is absolutely right. Mandela is absolutely right. How did Mandela's understanding of freedom change with age and experience? So he understood the real meaning of freedom as he grew older. As a young boy, he thought that he was born free, and he believed as long as he obeyed his father and abided by the customs of his tribe, he was free in every possible way. And आजकल के बच्चों को भी यही लगता है कि जो एक सोसाइटी में जो नॉर्म्स होते हैं वो फॉलो किया, मम्मी पापा की बात सुनी, ऑल गुड टू गो. बट एज ही ग्रो ओल्डर, फ्रीडम टू रेज अ फैमिली, freedom to earn livelihood started dominating his thoughts. Gradually, he realized that he was selfish during his boyhood. He slowly understood that it was not just his freedom that was being curtailed, but the freedom of all the blacks. It was the freedom from fear and prejudice. Asian experience basically widened his perspective of freedom. He became wiser and actually जो essence था वो उन्हें समझ में आने लगा. How did Mandela's hunger for freedom change his life? So he realized that his youth, that it was not just freedom that was being curtailed, but सारे blacks का freedom curtailed हो रहा था. And this changed a fearful man to a fearless rebel. He sacrificed the comforts of a settled family to fight for a greater cause. He joined the African National Congress and this changed him from a frightened young man to a bold one who fought against racial prejudice. अब यहाँ पर nouns दिए हैं एंड हमें उसके आगे ION या MENT का suffix लगाकर we have to change them into a verb. The rebellion का rebel, constitution का constitute, इस तरह से. Formation becomes form, government govern, obligation oblige, transformation transform, discrimination discriminate, deprivation deprive, demonstration demonstrate, oppression oppress, imagination imagine. तो ये सारे जो क्वेश्चंस अब मैं डिस्कस कर रही हूँ, दिस इज नॉट दैट तुम वीडियो चालू कर रहे हो एंड यू आर साइमल्टेनियसली नोटिंग डाउन द आंसर्स. नो, you have to read the chapter, you have to literally solve to the very last question in the textbook on your own. फिर वीडियो चलाओ और देखो कि मैंने जो सॉल्व किया वो करेक्ट है क्या, यहाँ पर क्या अलग बताया है, क्या ज़्यादा बताया है, क्या गलत है. जो गलत है तो प्रीवियस आंसर को ऐसे स्क्रिबल मत करो, उसको काटो और वहाँ पे नोट करो कि क्या तुमने गलत किया. कई बार होता है जो पहली बार गलत लिखते हैं वही दिमाग में फिट रहता है, तो अगली बार भी वही चीज़ गलत लिखते हैं, मतलब सेम रॉन्ग आंसर लिखता है. तो ये सब नहीं होना चाहिए. तुम एक नोट ऑफ द मिस्टेक्स दैट यू डू एंड यहाँ पर अपने आंसर्स बेटर करने आओ, अपने आंसर्स करेक्ट है या नहीं वो देखने आओ. ब्लाइंडली यहाँ से आंसर्स कॉपी करने का मत सोचना, वोंट बी हेल्पफुल. So there are some more examples of the used with proper names. अब इसमें हमें एनालाइज करना है कि सेंटेंसेस बोलना क्या चाह रहे हैं. Mr. Singh regularly invites the Amitabh Bachchans and the Shah Rukh Khans to his parties. इसका मतलब है कि मिस्टर सिंह फेमस पर्सनालिटीज ऑफ कैलिबर ऑफ अमिताभ बच्चन एंड शाहरुख खान जो है उनको इन्वाइट करता है अपने पार्टी में, क्योंकि अमिताभ बच्चन और शाहरुख खान तो एक ही है. द अमिताभ बच्चन मतलब अमिताभ बच्चन जैसे जो भी लोग हैं इन सबको इन्वाइट कर रहे हैं. Many people think that Madhuri Dixit is the Madhubala of our times. So Madhuri Dixit is compared to a landmark in the form of a legendary actress, Madhubala. History is not only the story of the Alexanders, the Napoleons and the Hitlers, but of ordinary people as well. So this means that सिर्फ ग्रेट लीडर्स की स्टोरी नहीं है, बट अलेक्जेंडर, नेपोलियन और हिटलर के जैसे जो भी लीडर्स थे सिर्फ उनकी स्टोरी नहीं है. द का मतलब यही है, ये आम आदमी की भी स्टोरी है. अब हमें मैच करना है विद द नियरेस्ट मीनिंग. तो आई वॉज नॉट अनमाइंडफुल ऑफ द फैक्ट मीन्स आई हैड नॉट फॉरगॉटन, आई वॉज अवेयर ऑफ द फैक्ट. व्हेन माई कॉमरेड्स एंड आई वर पुश्ड टू आवर लिमिट्स means that we felt that we could not endure the suffering any longer. We were pushed to our limits. To reassure and to keep me going, matlab, help me continue to live in hope in this very difficult situation. The basic honorable freedoms of earning my keep, matlab, earning enough money to live on. तो ये इन सब का मतलब है. I hope all is clear. All right, bye-bye.